Hello, my spooky friends. It is Stacy, and welcome to Special Effects Makeup on a Budget. And today, I'm going to show you how to do claw marks into the skin. I'll be doing this on my inner forearm, but I am using a silicone product, Skin Tite A and B, and it's a mixture. It's a little bit more on the expensive side of the budget, but I'm doing this because I do know that there are people that are allergic to latex and other adhesives. So, if you will, join me in my kitchen, and we'll just get into it. To begin, I'm using Skin Tite silicone. This has to be mixed. There's part A and part B. It is a 1-to-1 ratio, but I don't have any specific requirements about how I measure. I just measure by squeezing the bottle and counting a few seconds. So I do that for part A and part B, and then I'm going in with my Skin Illustrator on set. This is the palette that's for skin tones and undertones, and I'm coloring both, making sure that I mix A with one spatula to get that color in, and that I mix B with the other spatula until it's incorporated, and then I mix the two together. Now, roughly, silicone will cure in about 5 minutes, roughly based upon a 72-degree Fahrenheit in the area that you are working in. So I'm taking a spatula and I'm putting this on my forearm, and I'm concentrating most of it to be thicker in the middle. Now, with a little bit of alcohol, I'll go in and I spray on it to keep it from drying out and be able to push that silicone down to get rid of the seams from the skin from the silicone. I give it a minute or two before I start to use my tools. This will help me see the shapes a little bit better. The cut in will also look a little bit better. And I go in and I make sure that I cut it in the areas that I think looks the best for a claw mark, and then I will go through before it sets, and I will continue to push that skin back a little bit, and then also go in and tap a little bit of silicone that's left on my tools into the wound itself for that little meaty tissue look to it, and the fat. I just personally, that's the way I like to do it. I like to start a little bit at a time, start the wound a little bit small. That way, if I want to go bigger, it's easier than going smaller. And so I just make sure to really get that skin pushed out where I can see the difference between the space, the negative space for the wound, and the mimicking of the tissue. Now, with a smaller tool, I go in and just lift a little bit on the skin to make it look rough and torn. Now, if you're wearing this other than on your arm and you have it on your face and you need something a little bit more sturdy, you can use Pros-Aide. If you're allergic to other adhesives, that's a good way to keep that in place and give that a little bit extra security. Now I'm going in with my Mehron setting powder, and you can use baby powder or flour for this, just to get all the shiny stuff off of it. And to mimic real skin, I want a little bit of texture, so I go in picking some colors that match my skin tone, because I do have a couple of freckles along the inside of my arm, and I go in and bust those colors up just to make that silicone, even though I tinted it a skin tone color that matches mine the most, I want a little bit more realism. So anytime I put details in with alcohol paints, I either tap it out with a brush or I dip my finger into the alcohol and blot that out. And I'm starting with my yellow, and this is one of my favorite things to do when I do wounds, is to go ahead and find where I'm going to concentrate, where the tissue and the fat is going to be up under the skin. I then activate my red skin tone, and I concentrate that on the outside closest to where the skin is ripping, and making sure that it's more concentrated, darker on the meatier portions, so the middle portion has a little bit more color than the top at this point. And I tap in any color I want around that fat layer. Now, what happens now that you have alcohol paints, they will not run even if you put blood on them or a different other product. Only alcohol will remove it. So if you're working and you want this to be your Halloween costume, you are good to stop right here. It will not transfer, and you don't have to worry about it getting on yourself or anything else. But if you're working on a set or you want it to be a little bit more realistic, that's when you go in and add all the wet paint. But I'm going back in with my finger and I'm tapping in a mixture of dark red, light red, and yellow just to make it look a little bit messy. And if you want to secure it with a little bit more color, I go in with a towel and I blot some of more blood around the injury itself. I just try to keep in mind less is more for this. You don't want to cover up the work that you've already created. You see that the colors are in place and very secure, that the silicone moves with the skin when you bend it. So that's a preference about any other adhesives that you want to use. You just cannot use spirit gum or liquid latex. Now I'm going in with some scab blood. This is what I picked up at Spirit Halloween. It's just what I had close by. I do have a tutorial on how to make several different kinds of bloods, from edible, scab, stage, and gel blood. But I'm going in and I'm creating just a little bit more texture, because although it looks wet now, this scab blood will dry down to a point. There's a little bit of gloss to it, but I'm just using this to make sure I have a lot of good texture in between those wounds. And I'm going back in and I'm placing just a little bit more fat color along the texture of the gel blood that I put in, and then the scab blood. You can see here that it is holding into place. The scab blood does not run. This is another good option if you're going to be out and about at a party. But to make things a little bit more realistic, or if you're working on the set of a movie or you just really want to gross people out, I'm going in with a gel blood, which is a little bit thicker than the stage blood, so it runs a little bit slower. So you can put this on and make it run if you're filming, and then once that ran off, you still had the what I call the undercarriage of that first layer of blood. You have those alcohol paints that stay and do not go anywhere, so when that blood does bleed, it still looks realistic when you see it on the camera. So let's bring it in close. Let's just pretend we are on set. Let's create a bloody scene by spattering some blood in the work area and putting it to the test of an up close shot. Bring that camera down, and now you have your bloody scene. Thank you for hanging out with me, guys. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll be doing more bloody looks like this, and I will see you guys next time. Bye now.